Hey everybody, it's Timothy here again, and we're getting ready to go live on Twitch for the Queen Elizabeth Piano Competition final round. Super exciting, I know. Each night we're going to be joined by a past laureate of the competition to have discussions and conversations starting Monday with Remy Janier, Tuesday with Takashi Sato, Wednesday with Mariangelo Vacatello and Christine Lee, Thursday with my own brother Nikki Chooi, Friday with Henry Kramer, and Saturday with David Fung. We're also going to have exclusive interviews with the finalists themselves right off the stage, so make sure you don't miss that. Also going to have special guests, inspiring guests such as Marin Aslov join us in conversation. So make sure you join us and follow us on the Twitch channel and you won't miss a beat. I'll see you there. Hey everybody, it's Timothy here again, and we're getting ready to go live on Twitch for the Queen Elizabeth Piano Competition final round. Super exciting, I know. Each night we're going to be joined by a past laureate of the competition to have discussions and conversations starting Monday with Remy Janier, Tuesday with Takashi Sato, Wednesday with Mariangelo Vacatello and Christine Lee, Thursday with my own brother Nikki Chooi, Friday with Henry Kramer, and Saturday with David Fung. We're also going to have exclusive interviews with the finalists themselves right off the stage, so make sure you don't miss that. Also going to have special guests, inspiring guests such as Marin Aslov join us in conversation. So make sure you join us and follow us on the Twitch channel and you won't miss a beat. I'll see you there. Hello, Twitch. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. Remember to text in the chat where you're tuning this conversation from, this whole stream. I'm in Canada right now, and I know that there's many of you from France and Belgium, so hit me up and tell me where you're tuning in from. Really nice to see you. This is the fourth night of the Queen Elizabeth Piano Competition final round, and we're super excited to be streaming on Twitch. I think the first competition to ever do so. We have a guest that joins in to help us guide us where we're going to be listening to online and just giving us some experiences and commentary about what it's like to be preparing for the competition in the competition itself and also the future of the competition. All right, let's see where we have people tuning in from. Okay, we got someone from Holland. Awesome. Yes, I think we already have foreshadowed for tonight's guest. It is my brother. Super exciting. From Switzerland.
Hi, everyone.
There's my brother, Nikki Chooi. That's awesome. Hi, Nikki. How are you?
Good. Tuning in from Buffalo, New York here.
Buffalo, New York. Okay, we have someone from Italy, from Ontario. That's awesome. All right, so for those of you that are just joining us in for the first time, welcome to the Queen Elizabeth Piano Competition official Twitch stream. We're super excited to have this all online for you and to also give you some background information and behind the scenes content of what goes on before the competition, during the competition, and after the competition as well. The Queen Elizabeth competition is one of the largest competitions out there in the world. It's held in Brussels. Every year, it's for a different discipline. This year, we're focusing on piano. Last year, we're not able to have a competition just because of COVID-19. And even this year, it's going to be, it has been a hybrid of a system just because we're not able to have an audience out in public. And that has usually been a huge part of this competition in creating that atmosphere that the whole public is involved. This year, instead, we're having this Twitch stream and really appreciate you all tuning in. It's really exciting. This year's competition is on piano, as I mentioned before, and it's a really big stepping stone for many young artists to really take this event, and it really helps them further their career into the international stage. So this week, we're talking about interviews with previous participants. Every night we have a laureate that joins us. We comment on the performances that we're hearing, and even just discussions about what they've been doing during COVID-19. It's really casual, having fun, so don't be afraid. Put all your questions into the chat box. We'll get to them. We'd love to hear from you. Show us some love. All right, so Nikki, why don't you come on the show and introduce a little bit about who you are? I know you very well. I've known you since I was born, basically, but not everybody knows who you are. So tell us who you are, where you're from, and also what you did with the Queen Elizabeth competition.
Hi, everyone. It's Nikki here, tuning in from Buffalo, New York, as I mentioned before. Like Timmy, I was raised in Victoria, British Columbia, did my studies at Curtis and Juilliard School of Music. I did the Queen Elizabeth competition in 2012, and that was a life-changing experience for me. Fond memories there, a lot of intense stress, but also, lots of great memories and friendships built there as well. And now I'm in Buffalo. I'm concertmaster at the Buffalo Philharmonic.
I remember that I went all the way to Belgium just to watch you play in 2012. It was my first time to ever go to Belgium, and remembering how exciting it was. What I remember in particular was that you were playing the Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto, and that's also what I played for the final round. And I just remember it was really hot for you when I saw you perform. It was really, really a hot day in Brussels. We're going to play a media clip of you in 2012, and I think there's going to be a little bit of a surprise as well. Someone says here, first of all, before we get to that media, could the brothers sing the Shrek song, Craigasm? I don't know that song. Do you know that song, Nikki?
The Shrek song, is it Hallelujah?
I just know, hey, I'm too sexy for my shirt. Too sexy for my shirt. Too sexy.
If you call that a song, sure.
I know that. I don't know that song, I'm sorry. But why don't we put the media of Nikki for those of you who want to be refreshed what he looked like. Bravo! I was up there. I was out there in the audience. Oh man, you're sweating.
Oh, that was a really hot day. If I remember correctly, the air conditioning was.
Oh gosh. Took a little bit faster than you did. Someone
Good
asked us right
memories.
now, 22 Shadowfire. How does it feel to watch yourself play from years ago? What is it? I mean, I guess it's for you, it's been years ago. For me, it's just 2 years ago at this point. It didn't feel that long ago. But what does it feel like to watch yourself? Because you were 23 at the time, right?
Yeah, it was. It's good to watch. Previous footage. It brings back lots of memories, and just remember being really hot and sweaty that day. Do you remember? I think even someone in the audience fainted right before I started, so we had to wait a little bit. But wow, what a great time to reflect to.
That's pretty intense. I remember that when I was in the
Yeah,
audience, when I was watching you play, someone actually fainted on stage. Or not on stage. Was it off stage or on stage? Was it someone on stage?
it
Or it
was
was
it
in the
was off
audience?
stage. Someone in the audience, an elderly lady, fainted, and paramedics had to come and carry her out. I remember that.
You
Yeah.
really, you really, you know, that was intense. I remember seeing that. Yeah, but you really touched her, I guess, until she lost it. But that's amazing. Yeah.
No, it was good memories.
So
Yeah.
it is. I'm just looking at myself play. I know it's only been 2 years, but it does feel in some ways, it feels it's so weird. Like it feels like it was yesterday, but also I know it was 2 years ago at the same time. But I know, I think listening to us play, it's always really difficult because it's kind of, for those of you who don't know or don't play an instrument, it's the equivalent of hearing yourself talk and then, you know, it's usually very cringy to hear yourself talk, from my experience at least. Anyways, aside from that, Nikki, have you been keeping up with this year's competition at all? Have you been following?
Yes, here and there. I tuned into the chat yesterday on Twitch. It was fun topics you talked about, and what a strange experience it must be. Just trying to put myself into the competitor's shoes because no audience, right? And as performers, we need that connection with the audience. We communicate constantly, and it's been amazing how these performers, the finalists, have been able to perform without an audience and to still bring so much intensity and drama to their performances.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's really a commendable achievement that they're doing this without the energy from the public. Question
Yeah.
here from Aaron Korea. Which one of you learned the Tchaikovsky Concerto first, and did you exchange ideas on how to approach the piece? So I'll start with that. I think, well, I mean, you're older than me, so you obviously learned this concerto much earlier. I remember you playing it when you were about 50. That's when you learned it, right?
Yeah, I was about
Or
15 years old, middle of high school, and it's one of those monumental pieces that I always was on my checklist, along with Brahms, Sibelius, Tchaikovsky was way up there to learn as a violinist.
yeah, I learned it, I think, when I was 17, but it was a very rough draft. I remember hearing you play it, and I just remember how hard it sounded. And then I didn't really learn it properly until I was 22. I dropped it for about 5 years, and then I picked it back up when I was 22, and then I realized that this was a great piece to actually program and actually to offer to competitions. I think something about the Tchaikovsky Concerto is just such a great competition piece. And this was something that we were talking about yesterday, but what do you make out of the Tchaikovsky Concerto, and why do you think people use it so much as a competition piece?
It's a good question. The Tchaikovsky Concerto shows a lot about the violinist. It has wonderful melodies, shows the lyricism of that player, has, it's obviously very hard virtuosically, and it's very technically demanding. That along with the style, the I guess it really shows a lot for the violinist. So that's probably why a lot of competitors choose the Tchaikovsky Concerto.
I remember when I was choosing from my final round of the Queen Elizabeth repertoire, I asked you which concerto should I play, Sibelius, Korngold, Tchaikovsky, and I remember you just said you should do Tchaikovsky because it shows a lot. So I think that just
Yeah,
goes to
yeah,
show, because
for
even
sure.
every time you go to a finals of any competition, there's always a Tchaikovsky or a Sibelius. Usually it's Tchaikovsky or
That's true.
Sibelius, right? And everything else,
That's
it's like
true.
one or two of them at random, maybe a Brahms here or there. And speaking of good competition pieces, tonight we have Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto Number 3, and that's a warhorse. And I think that has also been a very popular concerto for pianists to play in piano competitions. And let's just introduce the finalist of tonight. His name is Sergei Redkin. And I looked up his portrait before we started the stream, and just a little bit about him. He's 29 years old and he's from Siberia. We actually have quite a lot of Russians this year, and this one is from the far east of Russia. He began playing the piano at age 6. In 2004, he moved to St. Petersburg, where he began his schooling at the Rimsky-Korsakov State Conservatory. Sergei has been an artist in residence of the Music Chapelle since 2017. We have a little portrait of him that he did when he was well, I call it quarantine, but I guess locked up in the chapelle, which is not that different anymore at this point, other than you don't have your cell phone. But let's play that portrait of him and get to know his personality.
It's necessary. Hello, my name is Sergei Redkin, I come from Russia and I'm 29 years old. It's really confusing because I never associate myself with music. I need to find it. It's there somewhere. Something. I was trying to flip the notes. That was a lot of fun because my parents are not musicians, so they could never check if I'm really practicing the right way or not. So to make it more interesting, I would flip the notes and play it upside down. The hardest part actually that nobody told us about in the conservatoire is that you have to travel all the time, and then you have to be in the city that you've never been to, and it's 8 in the evening and you need to go and search for the restaurant to find a place to eat. So that's actually the hardest part, not this. This is very pleasant. There is music that is just more difficult to me, like for example Beethoven. I think it's still very mysterious person to me, and I'm still afraid to take some of his works. Has this different feeling of time that goes very slowly and with a great tension between each second. And I'm the total opposite of that as a person. I have this very impulsive and easygoing sound. My time flows very freely and very fast. See, I'm already lost. I don't know what to do. I feel stupid because I feel it's wrong. I remember my first concert. It was my first year, and I played with another first grade. No, I don't remember. He played this, I played. So I did 2 big mistakes. I took my phone with me on stage, didn't switch off the sound, and my mother sent me a message asking how I'm doing. But the melody for the message was very long for some reason. That was a big mistake. So I had to play, and the melody would play and play through like for a minute. No one realized that it's in my pocket, so everyone's thinking it's on the first row. So, and I was just with the red face. My favorite American band is The National. I listen to some of the pop music, sometimes Russian, or sometimes it's like international, like American or British. I like a lot, like Blur or Gorillaz. No, no, come on.
Huh,
Sorry.
I can't hear you.
I'm back. I was just saying, yeah, I was trying to listen to him play and put mute. But it was really interesting to know the artist because I think that you and I were talking about this the other day. It's really nice to see their other side of their personality, especially this year. The age of the finalists are a little bit on the more older side. And I think that's really interesting because when you did it, everyone was super young. I remember when you did it, everyone was like 20, 21, maybe even 19, right? And even when I
There
did
were a
it,
couple
everyone was more like,
17-year-olds.
yeah. And for me, I think the median age was about 23. And I don't know, maybe it's COVID, everybody lost a year or something. But it's really nice to see that there are different groups of competitors that are at different ages. All right, so the queen is coming in now. Oh, she's got a beautiful purple mask today. Yesterday she was wearing green. Second day she was wearing silver. All right, so this is Stephanie. She's announcing the contestant. Sergey's going to start with the compulsory piece that we've heard 3 times already, called Dans le Jardin Féerique, composed by Bruno Mantovani. And we'll be talking a little bit about what it's like to prepare for that compulsory piece. But after Sergey plays that piece, he will then present to us the Concerto Number 3 in D minor by Sergei Rachmaninoff. All right. So, do you remember what it was like the couple minutes before you went on stage? That's what Sergey is probably preparing for right now, just backstage and waiting to go on stage.
Oh yeah, it was a combination between excitement and nerve-wracking. It's a balance of both,
Yeah, because I
for
think it's
sure.
like it's finally happening. You've been waiting this moment for 7 days, and now it's finally happening. These, this 1 hour is basically the sum of all your hard work. Not maybe not just 7 days, but also like years and years and years and years of practice and hard work. And it just feels overwhelming, I think. But what I will say that once you go on stage, it feels like it's second nature at that point. So it usually takes like a few seconds to get to that point, and we'll see how he handles that. Because in the past few days, they all seem pretty comfortable. Okay. All right, everybody on the Twitch stream, let's clap for him. He doesn't have an audience tonight, so we're going to be his audience. Clap, 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 clap. Welcome, welcome. Okay, let's take a listen to this piece for a few minutes, and then we'll talk about what we think about it. I want to know what your impression is compared to the piece you played last time, because I think in some ways it was very similar. All right. Okay, so this is a really different interpretation from yesterday and the other three performances. I find that his performance style is very percussive. Right, so we got a question here from Bob's Good Life saying that really enjoy the different interpretations. This is much more percussive, I gotta say. It's got that. Yesterday's performance was much more smooth, and yeah, exactly. I agree. More rhythmic approach. Yeah, it's much more aggressive, and it's different. I kind of like this interpretation as well. I'm hearing the effects of the gong become a lot more as a visual effect. Anything I'm noticing it emphasizes the harmonies. What do you think so far, Nikki?
Oh, sorry, I'm muted. I
What
think
do you
the
think about
fun
it
part
so far?
about so far it's the colors, the orchestration, and how the piano weaves in and out of the texture is very interesting, for sure.
I would definitely say it's much more percussive than the past 3 days. In Twitch viewers, write down in the comments who has been your favorite interpretation so far. I'm really interested because, you know, I gotta say each night has been so different. I would say generally though, the approach towards this piece has been very ethereal, very much, someone said even French colors, whatever that means. But I would say this, he actually took it with a much more percussive, you could say even Russian approach, much more virtuosic. Why don't you tell me, Nikki, what was it like when you first got the piece? I remember there was a funny story about that piece being impossible to play, but tell me, what did you first feel when you went into the chapelle? You know, we all get locked up for 7 days with no communication outside our colleagues, and have to learn this new piece in 7 days. What was your first impression? And do you remember what piece you played also?
Yeah, it was a piece by Kenji Sakai, and I can see a little bit of similarity with the piece that's being played right now. I guess the Paris Conservatory connection there. Remember, there being, looking at the music, there were so many notes, so many, it's one of those pieces that has lots of melismatic textures where colors, notes are one and the same. And, taking a piece, I try to split it up over the week, learn it a little bit at a time, and get to a goal every day. And, I'm sure you felt the same when you were at the chapelle. You just have to be really organized about how you approach learning a completely new concerto without having access to what it sounds like before, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you helped guide me when I was doing that. You told me just not to freak out. We have a question here from Hakahito. For the contestants, what is the feeling of having this imposed music that you have to interpret, but without your teacher or master to guide you? What was it like for you when you got that piece without your teacher to help guide you?
Honestly, it was almost freeing. It's like, this is up to me now, to my responsibility to put as much thought and care and dedication to bring out the best in whatever piece that was required to play. So that gave me, confidence going forward, if anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It gave you confidence. It really brought out. It's kind of like moving out of your home for the first time, out of your family, living on your own. It's kind of like,
Exactly.
can I do it? Right? Can I do it? You don't know, but also you kind of know what you like, what you don't like already, and kind of an experiment. So we have a comment, Aaron Korea. You like Sakata's interpretation so far? Yeah, I thought his was very interesting as well. I mean, this is truly a new phenomenon to hear this piece in this style. Why don't we hear a little bit more just so we understand where he's bringing this piece in our ears now? To close out there, has this piece, for those of you who are joining in multiple times at this point, does this sound hard? What are your first impressions listening to this piece? I mean, Nikki, I know you've listened to some of the pieces so far and some of the contestants. Does this kind of strike some sort of similarity to your own piece, or is it very different than what you had in 2012?
There are some parallels to it. Like I mentioned before, the many notes that kind of serves as colors and that and the texture as well within the orchestra, between the orchestra and the soloist, I see a little bit of similarity there. So yeah,
It's full of frills.
Lots of frills. Yeah,
it's very intense. Yeah. This is very intense performance. He's very, headstrong, finger strong, very percussive. As I mentioned before, that's the thing that strikes to me, is that it's a very percussive piece. Whereas before, with other contestants, I feel like it was much more of a Debussy kind of a piece, very much of a impressionistic approach to it. And it'll be interesting to see how the jury reacts to this type of interpretation. In some ways, I can imagine if it's completely, I haven't really studied the score, but it does seem to be definitely something that the jury's going to consider going forwards in choosing who they think has the best interpretation of that. Let's take this last minute or so, let's see how he finishes this piece. Bravo. He didn't look nervous at all. He looked
Oh.
very confident.
It was a very convincing interpretation for sure.
Yeah, it kind of just rolled through. Beforehand, it felt very much like it was a paused end, but this one just had a clear period to the end. Okay, 22 Shadow Fire. Oh, my good friend. I can't even play chopsticks. Everything sounds hard. It does, yeah. I mean, chopsticks for me is hard. Both the piece and actually holding chopsticks, and you would be surprised. I'm so bad at that. So, do you remember what you felt after you finished that first piece? Because that's a big chunk of time that you spent over the past week just to prepare that. And then I'm sure we're all very nervous, and finally to have that finished. Do you remember your first reaction to like, oh, I'm done with that in post. Now it's time to focus on Tchaikovsky.
Well, the thing is, when I did it my year, I had to also play sonata. I played Ravel's sonata before Tchaikovsky. Oh, no. Ravel sonata first, and then this piece, and then Tchaikovsky. Sorry. So this was right in the middle. So at that point, I was trying to brace myself physically because Tchaikovsky is a very physically demanding piece. The imposed piece was also very heavily orchestrated, so it required a lot of effort in terms of projection and all that. So honestly, I was just trying to pace myself both mentally, physically, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that now when you go backstage after that first piece, you're probably drinking loads and loads of water. I remember I was going there and trying to keep a positive spirit, and now I knew that the real meat is coming up with the Tchaikovsky. So we're going to be listening to him play Rachmaninoff Concerto Number 3, and that is a giant warhorse for the piano repertoire. We haven't had this yet so far over the past couple of days. We've had some Brahms, we had Tchaikovsky, we had Prokofiev. Now we have Rachmaninoff third. Do you know much about this piece, Nikki, or what do you think about this piece in general?
I know the Rock 3 is known to be this massive concerto for pianists, right? I wonder what's the equivalent to the violin repertoire, probably like Brahms or probably even Tchaikovsky concerto. But I know it's technically very demanding. It requires a lot of preparation and lots of virtuosity, and also, as with all Rachmaninoff pieces, it's got wonderful, luscious melodies, expressive tunes, and that's why it's so loved by many.
Yeah. All right. So let's give our attention to our finalist tonight, Sergei Redkin, and let's hear how he starts his final performance. I've got to say that this concerto does really give me Tchaikovsky vibes in the way of how the melodies are so rhapsodic and the technical challenges as well. It's very technical like Tchaikovsky, but at the same time, they all serve the music. It's not like, Paganini, or even sometimes I find Prokofiev, it's very technical, but it's like a technical passage as opposed to this piece, which it's been a while since I last heard this piece, but it's so soulful and rhapsodic and has that melancholical feeling like Tchaikovsky does in his pieces, full of sentiments. And someone says here, Tenta tricks. Great opening. I love how the glasses repositioning is part of the hand geography. That's true. He was playing just now and he just pushed up his glasses. And, Nikki, I used to wear glasses when you were playing. How does that affect your performance?
Yeah, it wasn't the most comfortable thing. I resorted to contact lenses, and now I had LASIK done, so it's definitely relieved a lot of. The last thing you want to worry about when you play is the stuff that lets you see. So yeah. But talking about the opening of this Rock 3, it's one of those memorable tunes that dives right into the concerto. It's a really great start to this piece.
Now, and we have someone saying that they love the clarity that of the texture that he's getting out of this concerto with the orchestra. Because I do agree, when I heard this piece one time, it's very easy for everything to sound like mush, but he does seem to be bringing out the live and the line out very good and making it very clear when the piano has a melody and when it doesn't. So, Nikki, I know why I chose Tchaikovsky Concerto, but why did you choose the Tchaikovsky Concerto for your final performance at the Queen Elizabeth competition in 2012?
Yeah, it's one of those concertos that, for me, I just loved playing, and it's technically in a competition, you want to pick repertoire that you're comfortable with and that you love performing for people, and that's why I chose the Tchaikovsky Concerto. That's something that I've played for many years and kind of grew up loving through my studies with it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that one of the worst ideas to go into a competition, especially this type of competition, is to play a brand new concerto on stage. That's probably because you're already dealing with a new concerto that you're given just a couple of days, 1 week before performing, and then to have the stress of learning a new concerto into the point where only experience can help you really firm a good performance of. I think if any of you that are thinking about doing the Queen Elizabeth competition or any similar big competition, definitely, I would recommend that you take a concerto, no matter if you think it might be a less competitive one. Play something that and you've played with orchestra before, because it could be a real disaster. Don't you think so, Nikki?
For sure. There's other aspects to the competition environment that will need your focus on. So the last thing you want to be uncomfortable with is your own repertoire, and that's where you have the freedom to choose. That's why there's a selection of concertos that you're given.
Yeah. And we have a great question here from Waha105. Some concertos are winning concertos, or are they all the same? What do you think?
Honestly, for the violin repertoire, I'm sure you can agree with me with this, Timmy. It usually ends up being Sibelius, Tchaikovsky, the occasional Brahms, the occasional Shostakovich. But these days, I don't know, I would love to hear something that's not played in competitions that often, such as Prokofiev First Concerto, or the the occasional Korngold Concerto, even Paganini Concerto, first or second. It's just to change it up a little bit and just to show the juries and the audience what the performer is likes to play. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. Yeah. There's so much repertoire out there these days, and I think we've defaulted on a certain amount of concertos just because they have been proven through experience that they have been winning concertos. For us, it's Tchaikovsky, Sibelius, as you mentioned. I think for piano, it's been Prokofiev third piano concerto number 3 by Prokofiev. Number 2 also has been pretty well received. I think Rachmaninoff as well. These generally tend to be winning concertos. I think Brahms has always been similar to the violin one. It's kind of like a toss-up. You could do really well, and that, of course, blows up any other concerto out there, or it could be a real flop.
For sure.
Okay, I think we're getting into the real climax of that first one. Let's give our attention to hear what he's doing here. That was very powerful. This section that he just played, it really just transported me to a new world. I think that's very impressive. I mean, I'm just realizing the grandness of I think there's something about the Russian concertos, even for violin, there's always this grandioso feeling that just comes out, like Shostakovich, first violin concerto, Tchaikovsky, even the Prokofiev concertos, there's something about the concerto that just bites you. That's just so powerful. And this is the same thing with Rachmaninoff. It's amazing. So I think I always wanted to ask you a little bit, but you watched me play at the Queen Elizabeth competition in 2019, and I watched you play, and I'm sure at the time we were trying to keep everything as calm as we could because we're supporting each other. But just let's start with you. When I was doing the competition in 2019, did you find that I was going through a similar experience as you were, or do you think things had changed by then? And how would you compare my experience just as an outsider different than your experience?
Well, obviously, I was very nervous for you, but at the same time, I just knew that you had this. You were prepared way beforehand. I know that at that point, I think a few weeks before, you had run through the repertoire. I watched your grad recital at Juilliard. You were sounding great, and I don't know. I had this inner nervousness, but also confidence that you're just going to be fine. And you entering the Chapelle, even though we can't communicate, no cell phones allowed or no computers allowed, I knew that you'll be fine. So that was and watching you get on stage, especially online, I wasn't able to get to Brussels when you played in the finals, but I watched all of it online, and it was such a thrilling experience to watch my little brother play.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, this is a question that I get a lot on Instagram and just privately. They're like, "What was it like to be in the competition?" And it's hard for me to explain because it's my own experience, but it adds a different dimension when I had looked at your experience. And I mean, at the time, I had heard about Queen Elizabeth competition because of 2009. That's when Ray Chen won it, remember? And that was really, I think, the first time I really heard about that competition. And when you did it, I was like, oh, I can't wait to go. And I flew over to Belgium when I heard that you got into the final round and watched you go through the entire process. For me, it seemed like it actually could be a really good reality TV show on TLC or something like that, just to film the whole process and then to go into the Chapelle. And I remember you were, maybe because you were going there for the first time, you seemed kind of stressed out about being locked up for 7 days. Do you remember? And you actually even brought your camera to vlog, to experience and make a diary almost every single day. I mean, did you find that your
Yeah, yeah,
experience was
yeah.
more stressful than what I went through in some ways?
Well, I guess for me, just not knowing what to expect. But once I got there, honestly, it felt like a festival. And I actually enjoyed the time I was there, just being able to dive right into the music, make my own little schedule, kind of communicate with all the other finalists in the Chapelle. It felt like, we gained this almost camaraderie between each other, and we were all very supportive. And I actually enjoyed not having my phone with me. It just gave me a sense of freedom and be able to live in the moment. I know that you enjoyed that. You didn't touch your phone for quite a while after the finals, right? Even though you were able to do that.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
We got a question for you here, Nikki. What advices did you give me? Do you remember?
I told you to not panic about the imposed piece, to
Hmm.
take it as a learning experience, but to also practice all the other repertoire. I guess for you, it's just the Tchaikovsky Concerto. To be comfortable with that, and that's going to be, very important going forward. Is that
Yeah, I
is that
remember
what I
that.
told you?
Yeah, yeah. And you told me that this is one of the few
Yeah.
competitions out there that actually gives you a lot of time between one round to another round. Because usually in competitions, like when I did Hanover violin competition in Germany, the whole from round one to the final round to the prize announcement, it was all in 2.5 weeks. Whereas that basically was 2.5 weeks is the distance between finding out you got into the finals until the results. So you have a lot more time to really just pace yourself. So I think that's the unique thing about this competition. So they're starting the second movement now. Let's listen to what he's going to come up with here. question here from G.Y. Liu. His tempo is tremendously fast. Does the orchestra have to follow him anyway, or does the soloist need to respect the conductor and slow down? Well, Nikki, because you're in orchestra as a concertmaster of the Buffalo Phil, why don't you help us, tell us, be our Sherpa when it comes to orchestra playing?
Well, in a piece like this, I think, it's up to because the orchestra serves as an accompanist in this setting, we should respect the soloist and kind of go along with it. Obviously not anything too extreme, but the soloist is the key here.
Yeah, I remember when I played Tchaikovsky, because this piece has been played so many times, 4 times during my final round, you just have to kind of lead. And the orchestra, of course, they're in the habit of following the last person who played. They're, of course, going to be a little bit stuck, but if you just push a little bit, they'll start to be they'll be definitely a lot more conscious about how to adjust to you and be much more sensitive. But he is taking a fast tempo, but he looks at ease still. What do you guys think about this concert performance so far? Right in the chat box. Loving it? What do y'all think?
His sense of rubato is very expressive. He pushes phrases and he takes it back. The timing is very, very unique for sure, very personal.
I'm just really enjoying this performance right now. Also, just listening to all of this new repertoire. I mean, I've heard piano repertoire, of course, and this is a classic, but it's just, it's so different than what I practice all the time. Nikki, we have another question for you. Waha105 asks, Nikki, is the distance in the orchestra a real problem?
I guess these days, when we're playing, since we have to adjust to COVID-19, we're basically sitting one person to a stand, and there has to be a particular distance. Here in New York, it's 6 feet away from each other. So at first, obviously the distance, listening to each other and communicating is tricky. It's we're used to playing in this, everything kind of forms in the middle of the orchestra. But now everything's kind of spread apart and our antennas have to be more attentive. So we just have to adjust accordingly, but it is a challenge for sure.
Yeah. I would say when we're practicing, we have to usually, I remember there was a teacher, our teacher, Sidney Humphrey, remember he always said playing with an orchestra is like dragging an elephant. Everything just takes a little bit longer just because everybody doesn't want to be the first one to actually be to play. So therefore, everybody's going to be slightly hesitant and you have to anticipate that. Otherwise, you'll be always ahead. And I'm just looking back, we have a lot of questions about, our family relationship, just being 2 brothers in the family who actually play a musical instrument and have actually, chosen to do it professionally. I know what to say to this, but I want to know your stance. How did our parents react when both of us wanted to learn the same instrument? Because you're older than me, so you probably remember their reaction more than I do.
I think they were very supportive. They were, we're both fortunate to have such supportive and encouraging parents. To their eyes, we're always, they support us through our studies, through many concerts, whether it's our little competition here or local competitions here and there, or to some place like the Queen Elizabeth. They've always been there for us. So it's been such a journey for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that at first mom wanted me to play some other instrument, piano or cello, because they thought it would be cute that I would accompany you if I were a pianist, or at least just not be so competitive. But I think we weren't competitive at all. I think somewhat because of our age difference as well. We're not like 1 year apart from each other. So even though we were never ever competing directly with each other, and if anything, I felt like you were helping guide me more than anything. So I think our parents were generally pretty excited. I mean, we come from a very special family because it's funny, both of us, 100% of the turnout of their kids became musicians, but no one else in our entire generation of families have anything to do with music. So I think it's kind of a coincidence at the same time that we're both musicians and both playing the violin and both went to the same schools, studied with the same teachers. It's kind of insane, actually.
Yeah, our paths
How
are
many of
pretty similar, and even though it wasn't, yeah, like you say, it was almost coincidence, but somehow it just kind of worked out that way. But
Exactly.
we play lots of duets these days, so that's always fun. That's always a fun thing to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we have a question here from Yup Zuzu. Nikki, can you describe in a few words the role of a concertmaster?
Sure. It's so the role of a concertmaster, there's several points to it. So first of all, you act as the leader of your section, so the first violin. So, you know, whether it's phrasing, the way you communicate with your body physically in terms of anything from emotions to phrasing to dynamics, you got to show it, you know, through the way you play. Another thing a concertmaster has to be responsible is to connect the conductor and the rest of the orchestra. So you act as a liaison for the rest of the orchestra to kind of connect between. Sometimes when there are guest conductors, the concertmaster acts as the musical interpreter of what the conductor wants to show through their hand gestures. So that's basically it. And obviously in terms of bowings and stuff like that, you know, we have to mark the parts in advance and all that. So yeah, that's basically it.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about how you became a concertmaster later on in the stream, but we'll save that question for later because I think that's a very interesting story that you guys definitely don't want to miss out on. Remember, for those of you just joining in, we're having open Q&As. We're commenting on the performance at the same time. We'd love to hear from you. So let's hear a little bit more of this part. I think we're getting into the development of this movement. for the jury, something which the Queen Elizabeth competition has had to deal with for many years. Should the prize go to a seasoned, mature musician like Sergei, or should it go to a much younger musician that has the possibility to really have the potential of having a large career? So I think that's a really good question. I think that, I think the more as I get older, as cliche as it may sound, I think my view has changed on that. I think when I was younger, I was like, oh, it should be definitely the one that has the most potential. But also, what I've noticed is there's a lot of burnout sometimes when you're given too much stress early on at a younger age. And sometimes it's better to give it to someone who's a more mature musician who's just ready to literally just fly off and have that exploding career. I think it's a fine balance because the best would be both. But what are your thoughts, Nikki, about this question?
That's a good question. Specific to the Queen Elizabeth competition, because I guess there are overlapping juries throughout the rounds, but then also new juries just in the final round, right? For me, in a competition setting, the prize should go to whoever makes the most impact on that day. Because, if you think about competitions, it's just a snapshot of how you play on a particular day at a particular time. It's not, in some ways it can be, a defining moment, but also it can be, a good day or a bad day just with any other day. So I think whoever is able to step up on that particular day, that should be rewarded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think getting rid of the backstory and just seeing what's in front of you, because in some ways that is reality. What you play on that night will represent of how you might approach future concerts, which is essentially what we're going for after winning this competition, and to really just have that opportunity to perform and tour. So one question I have for you is about being a musician. When did you realize that you wanted to become a musician? I mean, I know the story, but the audience don't know. So
sure.
what
We can
point
talk
did you
about
want to
it.
become a musician?
Well, early on, it was just something that I did along with playing soccer, baseball, and other activities. It was an extracurricular activity that I did after school. It wasn't until when I attended the Starling Delay Symposium at the Juilliard School when I was, I think, 13 or 14, where I got to play for amazing teachers. Itzhak Perlman, Paul Cantor, Don Weilerstein, they were all there. I got inspired by all the other students. I remember telling my dad, I don't want to leave. I want to stay in New York City and just be surrounded by this amazing environment. And I think that's when I decided that this is what I want to do. And yeah, and along with playing an orchestra and all that, I realized a few years ago that I appreciate having a balance of activities, and being a concertmaster gives me that privilege. I'm able to play a little bit of solo chamber music along with being a leader in the orchestra. So yeah.
And what would we have many aspiring young artists that join us on our Twitch stream, and you've gone through many music schools. You went to Curtis, you went to Juilliard, the two top music schools in the world, really. So how did you any advice of how to get in, like how to choose a school, and how did you make that decision coming from Canada? You're both from Canada, going to the US, because I know a lot of people get very scared to move to a different country to study, especially to the US. Did you go to a regular high school, or did you really dedicate the last part of your years, as some people go homeschooling, some people go to art high school? Do you think it's worth to really sacrifice those years of normality just to get into a possibly good school and embark this path? What's your view on that in general?
I think life is long, and I think you should enjoy your childhood as much as you can. For me, we were able to find a balance between my teachers, my parents. I went to a normal high school all the way till grade 12, till I graduated. But also on every other weekend, I traveled to Calgary to study at the Mount Royal University. There's an amazing program there. And I went there. I did that for about 4 years throughout my years at high school. And in terms of choosing the music school for college, we've all heard about Curtis Juilliard, and remember watching Juliet Kang's documentary after she won Indianapolis competition. And I was very little, and we were very little. We watched the documentary. She showed, the documentary took us around the hallways at Curtis, and I remember telling myself, if I wanted to pursue music studies, that's where I want to go, Curtis Institute of Music. So I'm glad that it worked out. And then obviously when I did the Starling Delay program at Juilliard, I wanted to go to Juilliard, so I did that after my studies at Curtis.
I mean, we realize that, all of these artists you may not know in the audience here on the Twitch stream, but these artists, some of them have been at a music conservatory for the past 10 years, even before they start their college years. Their 100% focus is more or less, I think it's really rare sometimes to hear that in North America, although it does happen. But I know in Asia and in Europe, it's very common that you kind of know that you're going to dedicate your life to music at a pretty early age, maybe 9 to 15. That's kind of the deciding factor. Whereas I think generally in North America, it's kind of like, let's make a decision like maybe 2 years or maybe 1 year before you go to college age. And I could see pros and cons. The pros, I think, is that you get a good chunk of normality into your life, so you're relatable in the future. On the con side, probably it's like, if you don't sacrifice, because playing music and learning an instrument takes so much dedication, and there just isn't enough time in the day to fulfill all of those things. And you told me that as well recently. But I think that, it's very different across systems. For those of you that are tuning in, what do you guys think about that? What was it like to dedicate your life early on? Do you think that an artist should really make a decision at an early age, like age 13, I'm going to be in music, basically forget about anything else and just focus? Or do you think it's best to keep that normality as far as you can until you get into the profession? So write in the chat box what your thoughts are about that. But we have a question here, I guess it's for both of us because we both went to Curtis. Konstantin Bolsher, how was it like to study at Curtis? Nikki, what was it like to study at Curtis?
It was amazing. It was fantastic, surrounded by great students, peers, and obviously being able to play for all the teachers and mentors that were there at that, for me at that time, including, my teachers, Ida Kavafian, Joey Silverstein. Then you can play chamber music for Pamela Frank, Arnold Steinhardt. Just the fact that it was such a small school. You see everybody a lot, obviously. Yeah. You just form this.
We're almost done here.
Sure.
Bravo! Oh, it's so anticlimactic because this is such a big ending, and then you don't have that big audience. But everybody, Twitch stream, let's clap even louder for him. Bravo! Bravo! Best rock third that I've heard so far.
Yeah,
the climax, Sergei is rocking. Yeah, and he looks so cool and calm as a cucumber too. So backstage, I can imagine he's probably like sweating and like, I'm done. Let's see if we can get a little backstage scene of what his reactions are so far. Okay, that's the Queen. Queen looks happy. It's hard to tell with the mask on though. Okay.
No, he looks happy. Calm. Does he get his cell phone now?
Not yet. For those of you that are wondering, you lose your cell phone for the 7 days, and that's usually a question we ask him, or the finalists, right at the start when we get to talk to him later. Yes, drink some water, hydrate. All right, so that was a great performance, and the first Rachmaninoff third concerto for the final round so far. And those of you just joining in, we are having a guest very soon. We're going to have Stephen Mccomb. Those of you who don't know, Stephen Mccomb is the director of the Academy program at the Verb Festival, and he was also the former director of the Honens competition in Calgary, Canada, one of the largest piano competitions as well. And he's a close and dear friend of mine, and he's also a fellow Canadian. So we'll be very interested to know about his perspective of a piano competition, what it does for young artists, and what his role is right now at the Verbier Festival, and what do they consider before they hire an artist into such an amazing festival like Verbier. All right, you haven't met Stephen yet, have you, Nikki?
No, I've heard lots about him. I've heard a lot from you and elsewhere as well. So looking forward to meet him.
Yeah, for sure. He's going to come on with us in a few minutes. But in the meantime, what are your overall thoughts about the performance so far with Sergey?
I thought he did a fantastic job. It's very convincing interpreter for sure. First in post piece, and Rachmaninoff was, I thought, very powerful. It was, you can tell he's a seasoned performer.
Yeah, you can tell that he's very, very experienced, and this was not a piece of cake for him, but it seemed like he knew how to take this and make it into a big performance. Do you remember what you felt after you finished the 2012 competition? That performance, that sting after people were clapping, you bowed, went backstage, and then what did you feel?
First thing I thought about was you guys. You guys surprised me.
Really?
You, Timmy, and my parents. Yeah, none of you told me that you were gonna come, and yeah, you guys were there. So it was like, I see my family right after. So all the anxiety, all the pressure, it was all gone. It was all good.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then the next question I have for you is, you played on which night?
I played on Wednesday, so right in the middle of the week. So not first, not last,
third night.
right in the middle. Yeah.
Third night.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, we have usually 12 competitors in the final round, and it's spread across 6 days. So Monday has two. This year it's unique because of COVID. We could only have 6 finalists for the final round, and every night one competitor plays. So that being said, the first person who plays has 5 days to wait before the results. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, that was one of the most torturous parts, because you have no control over it. You did your best, and you're just hoping that performance stays in the jury's mind in the most positive light for those next couple of days. 5 days is a long time, when you're hearing a lot of other people perform, and it can make you very anxious. You playing on Wednesday, do you remember how you dealt with that anxiety those 3 days before you found out about the results? Were you anxious?
Honestly,
Were you
it
nervous?
wasn't the same as other events, other competitions, just because it was such a journey. Overall, I think I stayed in Belgium. If you get all the way to the finals, it's like 5 or 6 weeks long. It's such a monumental journey that I was glad that I went through it. I was proud of how I did, and whatever the outcome was it. I remember I think we went and got lots of Belgian fries with mayo right after.
Yeah, we did. Belgian fries with mayo. Yeah, the frites.
Yeah.
I love that. That's what I really miss about it. It's terrible for you, and they give you a huge cone of it too.
Oh yeah,
I remember because I played.
Yeah.
I played on Friday, so I had only one day, which already for me was already pretty bad. I got ice cream. I was eating the ice cream, and I was eating results and then eating again, and it was just always that hot flashes of like, oh wait, I'm still in a competition. It's insane. So those of you that don't know, it's really a painful thing to wait for the results. I mean, you don't want it to be painful, and you want to say that it's anything can happen at that point, but at the matter of the fact is that you're in a competition. That's the point where they rank you, and as much as you want to suppress the reality of it, it is a competition, and humans are naturally competitive people. That it does play around with your mind. It's a real psychological game that you have to play with in order to calm yourself. But I can't imagine for that first person that played, especially when you can't really go outside because of COVID still. At least when it's normal times, you can at least meet up with some of the presenters, with other competitors, and just kind of talk and waste your time. But right now, I guess because of COVID, you're not able to do that. So I don't know. Any questions in the comment box? Feel free to let us know what your thoughts are so far. Any questions for us? Any questions that you want to ask Sergey? He's going to join us in a couple of minutes, maybe 20 minutes from now. Would love to pose those questions that you might have to ask Sergey tonight. in the meantime, I think we got a good load of people telling us where they're tuning in from. But, oh, Otterhouse22, you're back. Welcome back, Otterhouse. Oh, there's one question. Can you speak a little bit of French for us, Nikki?
Oh, bonjour. Ça va bien? Yeah, we learned French in British Columbia, so it's we learn how to spell and write, but not so much the speaking part of it. So we try our best.
When you say you're learning French in British Columbia, it's already kind of an oxymoron because British Columbia learning French, not the best combination. We have a question here. Do you have to be Russian to be able to play Rachmaninoff correctly? So I guess this goes in general. Do you have to be Russian in order to play Russian repertoire correctly? What are your thoughts? Yeah, what is your thoughts about that? Because I would say that, so much of the world learns classical music and it's such a diverse community now. A lot of people from Asia, a lot of people from everywhere, South America, even the Americas, learning Western Europe or European music in general. I guess, you could really expand that and be like, do you need to be European in order to be legitimate in order to play these pieces? What's your stance on that?
I think when it comes down to it, music is such a universal language, and we are interpreters, right? So that's what we strive ourselves to be as an artist. Mm-hmm. So obviously we want to do justice to the composer, whether it's Mozart, Beethoven, Rachmaninoff, or a contemporary composer, someone alive today like Mazzoli or Jennifer Higdon. We want to do them justice, but at the same time, not be afraid to infuse our own background, our own education in how we approach these interpretations as well. So there's a fine balance. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that maybe in the past there was much of that. I would almost call it a little bit of discrimination, actually, if you have to think about it that way. But I think because music has become such a global language that we're able to learn at this point, we're adding to the interpretation pool of these pieces. So I don't think you really need to be Russian in order to play Russian pieces. That's my thoughts, at least. But aside from that, we have Stephen Mccomb ready to join us now. So let's get ready to introduce. Hi, Stephen.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Fine.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you both.
Where are you calling in from?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Nikki.
Nice to meet you, Stephen.
I'm calling you from Lausanne, so not far from Vevey, where we have our offices for the Verbier Festival.
I can see the beautiful mountains outside your window. I'm very envious.
Those are the French Alps across the lake.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So many great memories in Verbier. So for those of you that are just joining us today for the first time or just returning, Stephen Mccomb is the director of the Verbier Academy program and special projects, and former president and artistic director of Honen's competition for piano in Calgary, Canada. So Stephen, welcome, and thanks for making time to speak with us tonight. Do you have anything to add on top of that? Just introducing yourself to the Twitch stream.
Well, just that I agree with you that people from British Columbia don't know how to speak French very well, but that's...
That's so true. It's very sad, actually.
No, I was enjoying Sergei's performance earlier of the third Rachmaninoff concerto. So.
Yeah. So,
but it's a pressure cooker for these musicians, even without an audience, a live audience, for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I mean, it's big concerto, and you probably heard this many times at the Honen's competition when you were directing that. I'm wondering, we want to get to about your past in Honen's, but right now you're leading the Verbier Academy, a Verbier festival in Switzerland. What is it like to, first of all, be a part of that program, and how would you say, what does the Verbier Festival exactly mean in the classical music industry? Because many of us, we've heard about it, and especially people here on the Twitch stream, they want to know because they hear about it all the time on Facebook. They hear all these great artists going there. What does being a part of the Verbier Festival mean to musicians?
Well, I think it's really a family, which is sort of once you're in the family, you're in it for good. And of course, Timothy, you've been part of the academy, so you know the feeling. But it's, I think so many people know the Verbier Festival, and certainly me coming from Canada, knowing it because of its online presence, because it has such a presence globally for everyone seeing these amazing classical music concerts with big stars of classical music and the big names of classical music. And of course, it is that. There's fantastic stars, but also fantastic young artists who are discovered there, both on the main stage with Martin Engstrom, who's scouting all over the world looking for young talent that he wants to showcase on our main stage, but also the Academy, which I think certainly is the second pillar of the festival. And without the Academy, there wouldn't be a festival. Partly because we have 220 young people who come to Verbier every summer, either as young soloists or ensembles or singers. We have 2 training orchestras, one for 15 to 18-year-olds and one for 18 to 28-year-olds, and now a conducting program as well. But people come there, it's more than just musical training. And I think if you're accepted to the Verbier Festival, whether it's a soloist program or the orchestra program, it really is like winning a competition. And it's like winning the lottery, because for the soloist, there's 8 positions for piano, for each of piano, violin, viola, and cello. And to be one of those young musicians aged 16 to 28, it can be life-changing. Not only to work with these great masters, which is really why so many of them come, but to be exposed to so much music as well. I think they hear more music in Verbier over 17 days or 3 weeks than they probably do the rest of the year at home. I see this at schools when we go to music schools around the world, that people don't realize what they have great in their own music schools when these great masters come and give master classes there. And you see these students, they're not taking advantage of it. But when they come to Verbier, they sure do.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true. You get so much music done in just a couple of weeks. And one thing, Verbier is such a, like that pillar on top of everything when musicians are trying to get to be a part of a festival. It's that gold standard of trying to get to Verbier. But at the same time, from my time at Verbier, I see a huge commitment to trying to engage with the audience and go beyond kind of this elitist idea of what music can be. Can you explain a bit about how, such an incredible, reputable festival has been so open-minded in going to that direction?
Well, I think, in my predecessor in the Academy, Christian Thompson had the same sort of philosophy that I do, is that to make a career today, it's more than just playing on stage, but you have to have a connection with the audience. And more it's like that. And there will always be a place for stars and people who are discovered. But more and more, to make it in a career as a musician, you have to find a way to connect. And that's either connecting with smart programming on stage, and that's something we spend time with at Verbier, talking about programming, and but being creative and thinking outside the box of what you want to present and how you want to communicate with an audience. So we have a program now that we called Verbier Festival Unlimited. And in fact, tomorrow we launch the program, but it's this year especially, there's so many outdoor concerts because of all the safety precautions that we have to look out for. But it's also a way for young musicians then to engage more up close with an audience, maybe out in the mountains on a musical hike, or collaborating in chamber music in a new way, where they have to come to a festival. And I think that's something interesting about festivals too, is you have to come there and be prepared to learn new repertory quickly, because you're meeting new people, new collaborative partners, and chamber music is a huge part of what we do. But that communication between musicians is similar to a communication with an audience. And if you can do that, and you can learn to do that, I think you'll be more effective as a musician.
I totally agree. That's something I realized about Verbier is that you just got to be spontaneous, because I remember I was the Academy program, we had this opportunity to play at at a restaurant up in the mountain, and I remember I was just playing, and then the first person who walked in front of me was Pinchas Zuckerman, and he was getting ready to eat dinner. And I was like, oh, this is the worst situation to be in, because I had to play now in front of Pinchas Zuckerman, and then Ronald Capuçon came in after that, and then Gergiev came in. I was like, oh my goodness, is this an audition, or is this the opportunity to just like have dinner and relax? It was supposed to be just a nice gig, I think, at first, but you know, that's the thing about Verb. You just don't know who's gonna come, and you have these superstars and these young artists, and it's almost like just a fusion of opportunity to just get to know them at a very, very beautiful place. So I want to talk a little bit more about competitions, because you led the Honens competition for a long time. And after doing that, you went to Verbier, which now you also have a similar passion in helping young artists really have the right recipes in order to have a successful career. Would you say that the recipe of having a successful career as a pianist, as a violinist, as a soloist have changed over the years? You did talk about that. It is so much more different. You can't just be a great artist that plays well and hope for everything to come. But what would you exactly say is much more required now of an artist in order to have a successful career?
Well, I don't want to be too presumptuous about saying what I think makes a great career. Certainly, there are generations of musicians who were fantastic musicians and appreciation for that, but by audiences as well. I think we are more and more distracted, as we see. We have a multitude of choices now. We can see everything online. So to be an artist is a different thing than it used to be. I think it's as simple as that. I wouldn't say that, and I think there are more young people learning music. There are more and more people coming out of conservatories, which is also a challenge, because it means that more and more people are being accepted into conservatories with the knowledge of, you're bringing people in, and I think the musicians know it too. I want to do this because I love doing it, but it may not be the career for me. And the schools certainly know it too. You have to be really at the top of your game to make a career in music, because it's so competitive. And I think with changing classes, with the middle class, rise of middle class, more people were learning music. So over the 20th century, especially, more and more people were practicing music, and were entering music schools and conservatories. So of course there are more people. There's more competition. I think I think on the orchestra side of things, orchestras have had their challenges in the last, over the past years. But there are certainly it's more a stable job if you can get into an orchestra. So a lot of musicians will go into orchestras, which makes sense. And you can be a great musician and still a soloist and be in an orchestra. Nikki, you know that. It's an important role. And then if you choose the route in particular, you either have to be discovered, and then somebody champions you, which happens so often, and you get a great deal with Deutsche Grammophon, or you find a Martin Engstrom who really wants to champion your cause, and that's great. And so there's that way of making a career, and there's nothing wrong with that either. You've caught the ear of the right people. But for so many people, I think you have to have that edge. So as I was saying earlier, it's communication, it's being a smart programmer, it may be interesting collaborations, it may be thinking outside the box on how you present yourself, using new technology and new tools. It might not necessarily be streaming a performance online, but thinking outside the box on how you can do new innovative things to build new audiences too. Exactly. I don't think there's not one formula, and I think when people come talk to me at the Academy every year, they're looking for the magic bullet to make a career. There just isn't one. You've got to get out there and talk to people. You've got to be willing to take a chance. You have to go backstage at concerts and talk to artists. You have to ask if you can play for people. It's all of that. So learning to be a good communicator, and I think we're watching a piano competition tonight. I think the pianists are the worst at it, because the pianists, unlike a lot of the string players, are in their practice room alone, practicing all the time. And to not be out there and actually collaborating, playing chamber music is difficult, because you make a career, and coming to Verbier is really about meeting people and making the right connections as much as it is about making music. And making connections is finding a good chamber music partner.
Agreed. Definitely agree. Yeah, pianists, they're the most antisocial just because they don't play in an orchestra. They are usually a soloist in an orchestra, or they're playing a piano recital. And that's very common. You get very into your own bubble. And since you've worked in a competition yeah.
I have to caveat. I have many friends who are pianists who are lovely people.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's absolutely. That's true. That's absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. But I guess one of the last few questions I have for you is, how much do you think a competition, how important is a competition in a pianist's career? And that's kind of an age-old question.
Yeah, well, it's the whole question of are competitions for horses. Look, it's a piece of the puzzle. It can be a good thing for you, or I think you have to choose competitions wisely to start with, and you have to think about why you're entering a competition. If you're just going from competition to competition to competition and you're not getting anywhere with it, well, it's probably not the right thing, not the right road for you to take, and it's probably doing more damage than good. But I think one thing a competition does is it helps you prepare for repertoire in a way that you wouldn't prepare otherwise. And it's intense, it's a real pressure cooker, and if you can do that, then you can get on stage and play. And I think that's one really important part of a competition. And of course, there's everything else with the right people hearing you and all of the audience from watching around the world, streaming. That's really important too. But it's so much of it has to be for the musician and about how you're developing as a musician and recognizing you're taking the next step. So in that way, I think it is important.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we have one last question from an audience member. They're asking, how is Verbier Festival going to be organized this year because of COVID?
We're going forward. So it's complicated for sure. Every day we have more news about what testing will have to be done, what controls or vaccination certificates. But we have made adjustments, definitely. Concerts will be shorter without intermission. We've reduced the capacity in our concert halls. Everything now requires a reservation. So if you want to come to a master class, you need to reserve ahead of time. And even our walks in the mountains, you need to reserve ahead of time because of contact tracing. So people have to be a little more organized. We're trying to keep it as human still as possible, but certainly any places where you would, there will be no bar service. There will be no really places where you stand and drink and
no pub Montfort.
There's no pub. Well, I'm not sure if there's a pub Montfort, but right now there's the regulations in Switzerland are that you can't, you wouldn't be able to go to pub Montfort, but you can go to a restaurant. Maybe the pub Montfort will be open for their great burgers. Yeah, in fact, there's more music this year at Verbier than ever because we've in fact doubled the number of performances in the evening. So we've made it a smaller hall at Salle des Combats, the big hall. So it's less than 1,000 seats, but there'll be two performances, one at 6 p.m. and one at 8:15 p.m. So people have a choice now to go to an early show, and they could go to the church for a concert at the Église as well. But it's all about safety and keeping our audiences and our artists and our team safe. And we're moving forward with as best we can and rolling with the punches.
That's awesome. Yeah, we have a lot of people in the chat stream. They're like, we're going to be at Verbier. We're going to be at Verbier. So make sure you reserve your seats and all your activities ahead of time. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Stephen, for joining us today. It was so nice to know your perspective on everything. And I'll see you soon again.
Pleasure. Good to see you. Nice to meet you, Nikki. Okay. Bravo. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
All right, so we're gonna have Sergey come on with us very soon, and we're very excited. We have a lot of questions to ask him, but I mean, what do you think about Stephen's responses so far regarding, competitions? You agree? Anything to add on
I
top
think
of that?
I definitely agree. Competition. If you think as competition itself, obviously there are, both pros and connotations to it. But if you think it as an opportunity to meet people, to get people to, as with Queen Elizabeth, the exposure it gives contestant is so valuable. That in itself, that young artists should seize that opportunity to make use of.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for your answer. I think, okay, let's have Sergey join us. Sergey, bravo!
Bravo!
Congratulations. That was such a moving performance. How do you feel? Oh, I don't think we can hear you. There we are. We can't
First
hear
call
you
my
still.
professor. Do you hear me now?
We hear you now. Yes. Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Sergey,
Okay.
tell us, how do you feel right afterwards? Do you feel
Yeah,
good? Do you
it's
feel like good performance?
I don't know. I don't know. That's the thing. Like, I have to call my professor, and he will know. He will tell me how it was. I trust him more than myself. I don't know. I never played in Beaux-Arts, and I never even attended a concert in Beaux-Arts, so I really don't know how the sound flies here. So I think maybe I overpushed it a little bit, but yeah, we're gonna see. But yeah, in general, it's a competition. It's over, and you try to think what it was.
Well, it was very convincing, and we have a lot of comments here. A lot of people were impressed by the speed that you took this concerto in, and just how confident. And what I will say about the first piece, dans Jardin
Yeah.
Féerique,
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard this for 3 nights now, and I got to say, your interpretation to this piece was actually very unique. It was much more straightforward.
Sure.
Mm.
How did
Okay.
it? How did you approach that piece, and what did you think about it?
Well, as any other piece, we had two Zoom meetings with Mr. Mantovani, and he said that it's very important to play it not like a contemporary music. And so I think he meant that you just approach it the way you would approach a concerto by Ravel or a fantasy by Debussy or something like that. So I was just trying. It's obviously very colorful music. It's based on different sonoristic passages and chords and all that stuff. So I just tried to find something that would sound interesting and different. So yeah.
Yeah, it was very convincing. I heard things from the piece that I've never heard before. Were you stressed out at all
Oh
to
yeah,
learn this piece
definitely,
in
of
seven
course.
days?
Yeah, 100%. I think even the hardest thing is, of course, it's hard to learn it in 7 days because you're never completely sure that everything's on place. But the especially hard it was to have only one rehearsal because there's a lot of tricky places with the orchestra to be together, and it's stressful for me and for the conductor to make sure that we go together in all the places. So yes. This is not a piece for one rehearsal, that's for sure. If we would have two, it would be different completely, I think. Yeah, but
What's
I'm
your
more or less happy
experience at
with
the
how it turned out.
Chapelle?
Yes, yes. I studied the Chapelle for 3 years, from 2017 until 2020, and now I came in the end of March, and I stayed there for 2 months now.
Do you live in Brussels?
Waterloo more than Brussels,
Oh, Waterloo.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean in Chapelle. But normally we live in Sofia. My wife is Bulgarian, so the last year we spent in Sofia.
And why did you choose the Rachmaninoff Third Concerto for tonight's performance?
Yeah, it was kind of a challenge for myself because my go-to composer was always Prokofiev, and on all other competitions in my life, I played Prokofiev 2 in the finals. So I thought it's time to change it a little bit and challenge myself with something else, which is, I think, Rachmaninoff 3 is one of the most difficult pieces in the piano literature. So I thought, if I'm that old, if I'm already 30, it's time to big stakes.
It was really incredible, and I think you did such a powerful performance on this piece.
Thank
We
you
have
very
two
much.
questions from Twitter
Yep.
that I think you have to answer for us.
Sure.
Okay, let me pull out the first question. So the first question is for Sergey from OtterHouse22. The first one is, many people were asking if the glasses that slipped
Yeah.
at your, near the beginning, you had to fix your glasses. Was that bothering you? Or were you used to it?
I'm kind of used to it. They don't sleep as often on the concerts because I'm blessed with not being very sweaty, even under stress. But on the competition, it's really different. So here they sleep much more often. So yeah, I should have thought about some solution. But it's okay. It's a reflectory thing. Unfortunately, sometimes I have to let go some chord that I really have to hold. That's a little, borderline wrong.
Right.
But yeah, otherwise it's fine.
Okay. I saw that. Yeah. And the second question is the performance today from Otter House as well. He says, your performance today with the Rachmaninoff was very much like chamber music. And he's wondering, do you agree that this is much of a chamber music piece as opposed to a virtuosic piano piece? And what's your interpretation of it?
Well, again, since we had only 2 rehearsals with Rachmaninoff with big break in time, and today in the morning they already had a rehearsal with Dmitry Sin, who plays it completely differently as far as I know. So I was trying to listen, because if we would go completely different direction, it would collapse. It wouldn't be good for anyone. So maybe under stress also, I tried to listen a little more closely than usual, because on the concert situation I would let myself be more free. But yes, of course, I think it's a natural thing. If you play with orchestra, you have to be part of it. You have to somehow, listen and estimate your sound, your phrasing on what you hear from the orchestra.
Absolutely. 22 Otter, he also wanted to...
Oh,
I was just going to say,
can
22...
I ask you a question, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, just one last thing. So the same person just wanted to give you a little PS of a message saying that he thought that your Jardin was the best of the week so far.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm kind of known in learning new stuff very quickly. I play from time to time with Maestro Gergiev, and sometimes it happens that he calls you and says, could you play Shchedrin Second Piano Concerto in 4 days? So that was my quickest learning experience. Of course, I played with the score, but yeah, I like this. I find this very challenging and fun. So because of that, I wasn't really scared to do this. Yeah, so I concentrated on Rachmaninoff actually more, but yeah. It's
The Rock 3 is such a climatic piece, a climatic ending. How does it feel to not have the audience there to kind of support you in this journey throughout the Is it strange? What were you feeling?
It's really difficult. It's actually really difficult. I was talking about this in other interviews. They're asking, is it better or worse to play without the public? And I say that for some pieces it's better. Like when you play Chopin Ballade for 4 people in the empty hall, it's kind of nice. It's intimate and it's a message, from you to the other, to a few people. But if you play Schubert Fantasy that I played in the second round, or Rachmaninoff 3, yes, you need this feedback from the huge audience, and it's really difficult. It's really strange to hear how these sounds, these waves of sound, they just go into nowhere, basically. So yeah, but you have to do what you have to do.
All right. So one last question that I have for you today is, what are you going to do for the next 3 days before the results come out? How do you feel? Are you going to be more anxious? You're going to just enjoy your time?
Well, it's inevitable, this anxiety of waiting of the results. It's really the worst thing about the competitions, I think. It's the the most stressful thing. But yes, I'll try to enjoy it. Now I'm gonna meet my friends at the Chapelle, whom I didn't see for a week. So yeah, I think we're gonna find some things to do.
Get some Belgian waffles and Belgian fries and enjoy yourself.
Yeah,
You
and
deserve
Belgian
it.
beer. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Belgian beer. So thank you so much for joining us again on the Twitch channel. Really appreciate
Thank
it,
you
and
for
good
having me.
luck to your performance. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, just relax now. You know, the anxiety is there. I remember when I was having ice cream, and result, ice cream. Right? I just realized these hot flashes, right? It's just you forget that you're in a competition, but then you want to enjoy it. It's like two worlds colliding. So enjoy it, because that happens very rarely, and you're in the best situation. You're in the final round, and only good stuff can happen, no matter what the results are. So good luck.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very much.
Congratulations,
Thank
Sergey.
you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Okay, that was awesome to see Sergey. He's such a down-to-earth guy. We have now
such a nice guy.
a special guest, and this is Julia. And Julia is a very special guest that we have today because she was a streamer. We had a streamer yesterday after we finished our live stream, and on Twitch you can raid someone after our live stream. So we did the opportunity to share all of our audiences with another streamer. Her name is Julia. She's a violinist, and it would be super cool for you to all stay behind as well, so you can join us in who we're going to raid next. So why don't we show the clip? Well, let's say hi to Julia first. Hey, Julia.
Hello.
Hey,
Thank
Julia.
you for having me. Hi.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, we're going to show the video of how you reacted when we rated you afterwards. And just for those here that are joining rating. So on Twitch, you can raid to another streamer. So basically, everyone who's watching this, we're going to transfer you to another streamer's live stream. And, why don't we just pop up the video right now? I mean, this is kind of we're going to talk a little bit more about it afterwards, but let's show the audience.
Hold up. I realize that this should have been my reaction to Linkin Park rating me. But, That is so cool. Hi! Oh my goodness. If you're not following Queen Elisabeth Competition, you should. These musicians are amazing.
I don't know what I'm going to say next. Okay, good. Thanks for stopping
That's
that.
awesome.
I was like, I don't know how far I went with that.
I love that
Well, I mean,
reaction.
Julia,
That's
can you
awesome.
share us? Why don't you introduce yourself to everyone here? I mean, I've been following you for a while on Twitch and really enjoyed your stream. But tell us where you're from, who you are, what you do, and how long you've been streaming for.
Well, so my name is Julia Dina. I've been playing violin since I was 2, and I grew up on the track of I want to be a concertmaster. I want to win a violin competition. I want to do all of these things. And I went to get my certificate of performance at Yale University, at which point I got married, and then I had a kid, and then I was like, I don't think I have time to do a competition anymore. So I won an audition, and I was concertmaster of Huntsville Symphony, which you were actually supposed to play at last year, and then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And I've since left the position to honestly just enjoy being a mom and stream full time, which is a weird thing to say, but yeah, that's now what I do, and I teach. So
That's
it's a little bit of
amazing.
a curve from what you kind of start out taking lessons to do, but it's fun, and I get to play whatever I want, so it's fun.
But hey, streaming is a huge,
awesome.
huge market now. That's awesome. I mean, where are you based right now?
I'm in Huntsville. I'm still in Huntsville, Alabama right now.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so ironic. I mean, Nikki and I have played in Huntsville before for the Twickenham Festival. That we have a friend that runs that.
Yeah.
Matt.
I got to play that 2 years ago.
No way. We
that
played it
was a
like
lot
3
of-
years ago,
Susanna.
I think.
3 years.
Susanna
Oh man, I
Phillips
must have been the
and
year
Matt
after
McDonald?
you.
Oh,
Yeah, that was a lot of
Nice.
fun. Really, really good chamber music. I really, really enjoyed playing there.
Yeah, that's super awesome. What a small world, hey. Really, really such a small world. What is it like to be a streamer on Twitch right now? Because, I mean, there aren't that many, but there are a few, I think like about 10 to 15, but that's not that many. I think there's a lot of potential. But what is it like to be a streamer? How did you get into Twitch streaming? And what are your audiences like so far?
I got into it because during COVID, I discovered Minecraft and I discovered video games because when growing up, you kind of practice all the time and you don't do that. And so I discovered Twitch on that end. My first stream ever was a Minecraft stream, was me playing video games. And then my husband was like, well, you should try doing a violin stream and see how it goes for you. And I did, and I got way more viewers doing that than I did Minecraft because I'm a much better violinist than video gamer. And then I just kept doing it. And I will say that I caught a little bit of your last conversation before, Sergey, and something that you touched on is that in order to make it as a musician and to get a career, you kind of have to get discovered. And that's kind of what happened with me in streaming. And Jacksepticeye, which is a really big YouTuber that I had no idea who he was, did a donating to smaller streamers day. And he videotaped what it was like him donating to me. I had no idea who he was. And then he put it up on YouTube and that got like 2 million views. And then I got a massive following afterwards. So I started streaming not even a year ago. I went from 400 followers to all of a sudden growing, and today I'm at 17,000 on Twitch.
Oh my gosh.
So that was a really cool.
That's like 10 concert halls.
Yes.
That's
One
incredible.
of the most terrifying things though is on Monday I have classical, which if you have heard, I'm sorry, because it's like you can request me to play like Introduction and Rona Capriccioso, for example, or you can pay $24 to hear me play Paganini 24. It's going to sound way different than the violinist you're going to hear at Queen Elizabeth, but you can still hear me do it. And there's like sometimes 100 people or over 100 people watching. And every once in a while, I mean, it's kind of easier. You don't get as nervous because in front of me, there's literally nobody here. But technically, there are 100 people hearing me play and sometimes butcher pieces.
Well, let me say this. When you should put an option, like, for an additional $100, you'll do the same thing that Hilary Hahn did with hula hoops and playing Paganini Caprice number 24.
Well, I actually did have, with channel points, I did have the Ling Ling challenge for a little bit.
Oh, did you?
Oh, okay, I'm missing out.
I did have the Ling Ling challenge. If you come by, I did take it off though, because people requested it so often that every single time I was like, okay, like someone would raid with 200 or 300 people when I'm trying to play with the hands backwards. And I was like, oh no, this is not my first impression that I want to give.
Oh, that's amazing.
So,
well, okay,
though.
This is really amazing, and you're such an inspiration, to so many. I mean, it's funny that you say that you didn't want to go into competitions because you didn't have time anymore, and it's awesome that you found this new path. And I think so many of us classical musicians are trying to find a way that we can connect with a broader audience, and you're doing that literally just by example. So that's awesome. So where can we find you on social media? What's the best way other than, I your Twitch? Can you just tell the audience what your channel name is?
Yeah, so I'm Storioni Girl on Twitch. I wanted to change it to Julia Dina Violin, which is what I'm at. I'm Julia Dina Violin on YouTube and on Instagram, and I even think on Twitter. I'm not very active on Twitter. I'm trying to get the hang of all the social media stuff. But I'm Storioni Girl on Twitch, and Storioni was just the make of my first violin that I played on. So it's just stuck. I've had enough like YouTube videos done with that name on, so that's what it's going to be on Twitch. So, but you can find me there with Story Only Girl, Julia Dina Violin anywhere, and I'm pretty sure even on Twitch, if you just type in my name, I've written it in enough sections that you can still find my page that way.
Awesome. And how often do you stream on Twitch?
I stream anywhere between 3 to 5 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is usually a sure way to find me. Sometimes I'll stream Tuesday, Thursdays, either recording or games, or sometimes I'll do me practicing if I really have to stream, but I have to get other stuff done. And I will sit there practicing and do the regular thing, like, you know, the same 1-2 measures. And sorry, you can, I mean, there's nothing keeping you here. You can turn it off if you want to, but I'm here and you can watch the process. And I'm surprised by how many people actually enjoy watching the process as well. So I think that's the most interesting thing that I think streaming has brought to me versus playing in a concert hall is some of my favorite moments in being in school and all of that is what happens behind the concert hall, you know, in rehearsals or in the halls. And that's all the stuff that the audience can't see, but it's the stuff that makes you fall in love with a piece. Like, you know, when you start learning a piece and you absolutely hate it, and then by the end of the rehearsal process, you are in love with it because of the journey that you took to get there. And you can actually have the audience be there with you in that journey. So they're kind of connected to it a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Julia, for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. It's so nice to have you as a guest, and keep on streaming.
Thank you for having me. Will do.
All right.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right. So thanks, everyone, for joining our stream tonight. I hope that you enjoyed the fourth night's show. Really happy to have these guests on, Julia, and we also had Stephen Mccomb. Thank you, my brother, Nikki Chooi, for joining us for this talk and giving your insights of the competition and your life as well. Tomorrow, we're going to be having Henry Creamer, who got second prize in the 2016 Queen Elizabeth Piano Competition. It's going to be the same night. It's going to be at the same place, same time of the night, 8 p.m. Brussels time, 2 p.m. Eastern time in the US. Have a wonderful night, and thanks everyone for watching again, and I can't wait to hear more of your questions and answer them. And we're going to do a raid now to Rob Does Music. So if you want to be interested in seeing what other streamers are doing, just stay on here and let's see where this takes us. Thanks, Nikki.
Thanks, everybody. Bye. Call me.